Hello, my fellow handicappers. This is Weekend Handicapper from weekendhandicapper.com. We are going to recap the 2020 Preakness Stakes, a very exciting race, especially down the stretch, where you had Authentic and the filly, Swiss Skydiver, battling it out, and lo and behold, the filly won. So that's pretty cool. That doesn't happen all the time, but it happens every now and then. But it's always cool. Always cool to see that. Congratulations if you had Swiss Skydiver, or if you had any winning tickets on this year's Preakness. I didn't. I wasn't fortunate. Our collector didn't. It was kind of disappointing. I thought it would run better off the layoff. New York traffic didn't do much. That was my top picks, as I stated in the video. But I'm not shocked at the result, and I thought it was a really good, well-run race that we can take away from, just like most races we could take away from. Some of them we can't explain what happened, but this one, I think it's pretty evident what happened, and the result is what it is, and it's a good result to see because the horse paid quite a bit. I think it was 11-1 when it went off at post time, which is wonderful because I think it was 6-1 morning line. So that's an overlay. That's an overlay in my book. So it paid 25 something, I think. So congratulations to Swiss Skydiver, Kenny McPeak, and all those that might have had a winning wager on that horse. Now, let's look at some of the reasons or some of the takeaways or lessons we can learn from this year's Preakness Stakes. Well, one, I think, and I say this in good number of videos that I make, you can't beat early speed horses or horses right off the pace typically, unless there's a pronounced track bias going on. I would much rather have my money on horses near the front of the race than closers. All one has to do is look to the race before, the Black Eyed Susan with Bonnie South. The horse Bonnie South is a closer. That's her preferred running style. You are taking a huge gamble, even with short price horses, if you bet closers. I say this all the time. It's okay to take a shot with long shots to try to close in on paces, but you got to be a phenomenal horse, I think, or a handicapper to bet on short price horses that are closers. You just take a risk. So it's much preferred to bet on early speed horses, early pace horses than it is closers, in my opinion, for the most part. Now, you do get some bombs as closers, and I think that's what we saw in the Preakness. Now, maybe we have to step back a little bit because the Preakness is well known for horses that win near the front of the league. So that is consistent. So if you were able to pinpoint the running style, the pace scenario of how the Preakness is going to be run, then you had a heck of a shot of winning those wagers on this year's Preakness. Because Preakness historically does, especially here recently, you want a horse on the lead or near the front of the lead. Swiss Skydiver was right off the lead, where you want to be. Authentic, who came in second, was right up near the front. It was battling out with its stablemate's 1,000 words for the most part. So that's one reason. That's one takeaway, one lesson. If you want to bet the Preakness and get good at betting the Preakness, look for early speed horses or horses right off the pace. It happens all the time in the Preakness, especially here lately. So that's one factor that we can take away from this year's Preakness. But on top of that, and just as important, if not more important, if you have, and this applies not just to the Preakness, again, unless there's some strong closing bias going on at a track you're playing, but on average, if you play horses consistently, if you like a horse whose running style is early speed or right off the front, and you get away with slow first quarter fractions or slow fractions at the first call, that's a really good bet. And we saw that. The Preakness, this year's 2020 Preakness Stakes, that first quarter was slow. So that means you can either, those jockeys, those horses on the front end can lull them to sleep, or they're not coming back to the pack. It's not a fast pace, so they're not going to wear each other out. So if you had win wagers on any of those horses up near the front after the first quarter, that slow first quarter, the half mile, I should say, that was slow. So I would be feeling really good if your horse was there, because they're not going to wear each other out where the horses coming off the pace are going to close into. So that's another reason I think that Authentic finished near Authentic's a good horse, I guess, but Swiss Skydiver, Authentic, they're not coming back. That slow pace ensured decent horses are going to finish near the top because it's a slow pace. All right, so that's another reason Swiss Skydiver won and Authentic finished second, because the pace wasn't that fast where they would wear each other out. There wasn't early speed. There was no early speed duel, no fast pace up top. The fractions were slow, especially at the beginning, first quarter, first half a mile. And that leads me to this. If you watch the race replay, and I'll put this in the link in the description below, you see Robbie Alvarado, he's had some tough times. Congratulations, though. I know it's been a struggle here lately for that jockey, but way to come back, get it done on the big stage. But kudos to Robbie Alvarado, the jockey of Swiss Skydiver, because you'll see this on the replay. Right after that half mile, you see him make a move. You see him guarantee, I didn't talk to Robbie, I don't know Robbie Alvarado, but I would think that jockey sensed a slow pace. And he said, I got to get moving. I got to get going, or they're not going to lull us to sleep here. I'm going to force the issue. I'm going to press the pace. I'm going to take a shot. I got to make a move right now to speed this sucker up and try to get away with it. And exactly that's what happened. Got to the inside a little bit. And again, in my previous videos, you could see usually that's where you want to be. Those inside post positions typically do pretty well. Near the inside of the track does pretty well. But he forced the issue. Right after that slow half mile, he said, I got to get going with my horse. So he was the aggressor. He took a shot. He stepped on the gas at that point in time, went by Authentic. Authentic's like, all right, here we go. Now I got somebody to duel with. And that's exactly what they did down the stretch. They dueled, and the filly won. Swiss Skydiver won, not taking anything away from Authentic. But again, that's why you hear me preach all the time about price. You got to watch taking short price horses. If you want to win money in the long run, it's tough. It's tough because everything looked on paper like Authentic should win. But kudos to Robbie Alvarado. I think the jockey did a really smart thing, sensing that slow pace, sped the thing up, and let's see what kind of horse I got. And he had enough horse. Take nothing away from Swiss Skydiver. Got a lot of heart down that stretch, fending off the Derby champ. So, early speed horses or horses that like the front, if that pace scenario sets up good for that kind of horse, especially in a race at a distance that has been known to produce a lot of horses with that running style, that's great. Put some money on it at the right price. Make sure when you bet those overlays. If you like Swiss Skydiver, but you thought 6-1 morning line wasn't a good bet at those odds, but by the time post time came around, it was about twice those odds, 11-1. Bet it. That's an overlay. Wonderful overlay. And that's how you make money. Just like stocks or anything else. When we're buying a house or a car, when something is valued, or you're getting more of a value for something than it should be, in this case, Swiss Skydiver, you basically bought, let's put it in car terms, you bought a car for like $3,000 that's valued at what? Double that, $6,000, $7,000. So hopefully that analogy makes sense. Basically, you were getting a lot of, or maybe I should reverse it. Somebody bought your car for $7,000 when you thought it was worth $3,000. That's kind of the analogy that you want to kind of think about in terms of betting on horses. Swiss Skydiver was a really good overlay when it came to post time. I was sticking to I didn't bet it. I was sticking to my guns because I thought Art Collector would run a really good race off of the layoff, and I thought it was a really good horse. So it just didn't fire. Robbie Alvarado, kudos to you. And I think Breeders' Cup time, who knows? But it's going to be fun preparing for it, seeing what these horses are going to do, who's going to be going where, who's going to be in the Breeders' Cup. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's exciting. In a weird way, this year has produced, in horse racing, has produced some interesting stories. With the pandemic and the Triple Crown moving so close to Breeders' Cup, dare I say it's kind of a good thing, how it's kind of played out. So it makes for interesting, because these horses are fresh in our mind. We don't have to think back till May when Swiss Skydiver won the Preakness Stakes, and now, months later, she's in the Breeders' Cup. This is going to happen November 7th, 2020, this Breeders' Cup. So it's going to be here before we know it, just a few weeks later. So it's going to be interesting who's going to be in the Breeders' Cup field, what horses, and you don't have one dominant horse this year. Some would argue Tiz the Law probably is, and hopefully if all goes well, be ready to roll in the Breeders' Cup, and we'll see how good of a horse Tiz the Law is. But those are some takeaways. It was a really exciting race. There's no shockers. Yeah, Swiss Skydiver paid $25 or went off at 11-1, but it shouldn't have went off 11-1. So it's not one of those head scratching horses. Now I'm gonna give a shout out to Jesus' team. Jesus' team, again, if you watch my Preakness analysis videos or the long shot Preakness long shot videos, Jesus' team always shows up, third or fourth. So it's great. Look for horses like that. That could be another takeaway. Look for horses like that to build your superfecta, trifecta tickets around. Because Jesus' team doesn't necessarily win, but he's always up in the top 3 or 4, second, third, fourth. That's a good horse as far as building your vertical wagers around. Now, we didn't get all the pieces to fall in place as far as I'm concerned. I certainly would have had Jesus' team on my team, my trifectas, my superfectas, but the top tier Swiss Skydiver kind of knocked me out of. I liked her second or below, but not first. And kudos to Swiss Skydiver. So I've rambled enough this video. Hopefully I got across some key takeaways as far as pace, as far as running styles, how it matches certain races. The fact, to reiterate, betting overlays. And I just want to give a shout out to Kenny McPeak, Robbie Alvarado. Wonderful, smart decision, I think. Jockeys get a lot of criticism, but I think that move, him sensing that slow pace to take it to authentic in those front runners, move down there on the inside, I think that was a winning move. And he should be congratulated. But if anybody's going to be congratulated, it's Swiss Skydiver. It's all about the horse usually. That's usually why you win or lose typically. The horse is to be congratulated. Get it some oats, extra peppermints, whatever they eat. And congratulations to anybody that had Swiss Skydiver or you cashed. And if so, let us know in the comments below what you thought about the Preakness, what you thought about Swiss Skydiver, how well your wagers went, or didn't go. And then until next time, I'm Weekend Handicapper from weekendhandicapper.com. Happy handicapping, smart wagering.